Why did a late-night tease about my ex become the final proof that ended my marriage? How did my husband stop arguing and let careful, lawful steps answer me in front of a crowd? Can a woman like me talk her way past a camera, a child's question, and a clerk's stamp? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Mona Calvert, 33, receptionist at a small dental clinic. I liked order on the desk and the chaos in my stories. I said I only teased, I never cheated. I told my husband, Adrian, that a little memory talk kept our marriage spicy. He asked for respect. I said he was old-fashioned. I believed clever words could fix any mood. I believed I was the brave one. We had our daughter, Lila, who loved drawings and warm milk. Adrian cooked breakfast and set her shoes by the door. He asked what time I would be home. I said I live by feeling. He asked me not to bring my ex into our bed, even as a joke. I said it was only a game and that adults understand games. I framed his quiet as guilt. I told myself silence meant I was right. My ex, Theo, sent short messages that felt like sparks. He asked if I remembered our wild years. I said some nights were still funny. My coworker, Kendra, said, "Men fear honest women." I said she was correct. I posted little captions about freedom and truth. Our manager asked for a quick word about clinic optics. I said people needed to relax. I told myself attention proved healthy. Small things in the house changed. A thin binder labeled utilities grew thicker than bills. A sticky note by the keys said, "Bring forms." A calendar alert on Adrian's phone flashed downtown 9:25 and then vanished. 2 mugs sat on opposite counters like markers on a map. A cloud sync pop-up blinked. File uploaded successfully on his laptop. The screen dimmed when I stepped closer. He said he was getting organized. I said he was dramatic. He slept early. I scrolled late. Leela asked why Daddy was quiet. I said he liked to think. Adrian asked me not to post about our home. I said he was scared of light. Ruth, his mother, asked if jokes can bruise. I said guilt speaks in old words. My brother, Matteo, asked if Theo was safe. I said he was history and harmless. I told myself I could steer this story. I told myself nothing truly bad happens when I am smiling. I woke before the alarm and stared at the ceiling. I wanted the day to feel bright. I told myself I would steer the mood. I reached for Adrian and asked if he remembered when I used to tell wild stories from old times. He turned on his side and said he liked real life better. I said real life was heavy and needed a little air. I started to tease, soft and smiling, about the way my ex, Theo, once made me laugh so hard I fell off the sofa. I said laughter in bed kept things young. Adrian asked me not to bring Theo into our space. I said it was only a joke and that adults know the difference. He grew quiet. I told myself quiet meant I had won. The room held a calm grey light. I got up first and set 2 pillows straight. I liked seeing lines where there had been chaos. I told myself order outside gives room for spark inside. In the mirror, my face looked awake and pretty. I decided pretty was proof I was right. When Adrian sat up, he asked if I could please stop using our bed as a stage for old memories. I said he was being old-fashioned. He asked for respect. I said respect was me being honest. I believed the sentence as I said it. In the kitchen, I made coffee and slid a mug toward him. He left it on the far counter. He said he needed space. I said space was fine, because space showed trust. I told him I would be home late, after a drink with Kendra. He asked what time. I said I would feel it. He sighed and looked at the floor. I called the sigh controlling in my head, so I would not have to feel guilty. Lila came in with her hair crooked. She asked if I could braid it. I said of course and asked her about her dream. She said she dreamed about a big house with many rooms. She asked if Daddy was mad. I said Daddy was thoughtful. Adrian kissed her head and started pancakes. I watched his back and felt a small pinch in my chest. I named the pinch boredom and threw it away. On the hallway table, a sticky note near the keys said, "Bring forms." I laughed and called it a dramatic way to remember a boring task. Adrian's phone blinked with a small calendar alert. Downtown 9:25. He dismissed it without a word. I asked what downtown at that time meant. He said it was a personal errand. I said it sounded serious. He said it was only planning. I told myself he had a gym class or a new hobby. I liked that story better. I went into the small study to print Lila's spelling list. Adrian's laptop was open to a spreadsheet with letters and dates. When I moved closer, he minimized the window and set the screen to sleep. I asked if he was cleaning old files. He said he wanted to get organized. I said organization is his love language. He did not smile. I heard a soft cloud sync pop up before the screen dimmed. File uploaded successfully. I told myself he was finally using the cloud like everyone else. I messaged Kendra that I would be late after work for a quick drink. She said the clinic needed fresh content, maybe a friendly selfie by the lobby plant. I said I could do that. Theo sent a short message that read, "Do you still tell our silly stories?" I stared at it too long. I typed that some stories still worked. I did not send it. I saved it and told myself restraint was maturity. Ms. Varga across the row watered her plant by the window. She looked at me and raised a brow. I waved and smiled big, as if she had said something kind. I carried the recycling out so she could see I was normal and busy. I wanted to be seen as normal when I was choosing to be special. I called it balance. When it was time to leave, Adrian held the front door. He said we should talk tonight after Lila slept. I said I had plans and that we were fine. He said we needed to set lines that were fair to both of us. I said lines were cages. He did not reply. I took my jacket and bag and pretended the silence confirmed my view. On the landing, the stairwell smelled clean and still. A small draft moved through like a hush. I heard the soft clack of the lock as Adrian closed the door behind me. At the same second, his phone buzzed on the console. The screen lit with the word "private." He turned it face down and slid it into his pocket. I said he was being secretive. He said personal calls were allowed. I told myself his new calm was a pose to make me feel small. I promised myself I would not shrink. I caught my bus and watched the town pass by. The windows showed me a second version of my face. I liked both. I thought about the bed and my teasing voice and felt bold again. I told myself bold women keep marriages alive. I told myself Adrian would see that soon. I set an alarm on my phone to remember my lipstick for later, and then I turned the screen dark. The clinic smelled like mint and paper. I turned on the lobby light and placed magazines at right angles. I liked the look of control. Kendra came in with a bright scarf and said my selfie from last night had good numbers. I said, "People love confidence." Mr. Delaney, our manager, passed with a polite nod. I smiled and told myself I was the kind of staff who made a place warmer. Morning patients arrived like waves. I checked them in, joked about rainy weather, and moved forms across the counter. I posted a small story that read, "Honesty makes love light." I did not name Adrian. The likes came fast. I told myself likes meant health. My phone buzzed with a text preview from Adrian. "Can we talk after pickup?" I swiped the bubble away so it would vanish. I told myself I needed to keep my head clear for work. Near noon, Mr. Delaney asked for a quick word in the HR room. He said a client had shown him a post where my location tag still linked to the clinic. He said it was best to keep our brand separate from personal jokes. I said I understood and thanked him for the guidance. Inside, I called it small-minded. He asked if any other photos could confuse people. I said no, just say fun. He said he appreciated my professionalism. I said I valued clarity. The words felt like clean stones. I stacked them neatly in my mouth. Back at the desk, Kendra asked what he wanted. I said optics again. She rolled her eyes and said the world needs to relax. I agreed and typed a caption about fearless women. Then I paused and deleted it. I decided to save the heat for later, when more people were online. I told myself timing was strategy. I liked the feeling of being my own publicist. A delivery person dropped a small box of supplies. I signed and looked at my reflection in the glass door. I saw a woman who could survive her own story. I liked her. I told myself that woman deserved thrills. Theo messaged a photo of his gym smoothie with the caption "Old Times, New Gains." I sent a thumbs up and asked if he worked late today. He replied that he would be around the lobby after 5. I said I might stop by with a friend. He sent a wink. I put the phone face down and told myself this was tiny and safe. After lunch, the printer near the HR room started up. It made a long clatter and then spit a blank page. The sound pulled at my nerves. I remembered the blank page at home last week. I told myself printers misbehave all the time. I straightened the page and threw it in recycling. When I turned, Mr. Delaney stood at the door and asked if the noise bothered me. I said I was fine. He said he had scheduled a staff photo for next month and wanted social tags kept simple. I said I could handle that. I reminded myself to smile with my eyes in the photo. In the late afternoon, I checked Adrian's shared calendar on my phone. He had a recurring block marked Meeting, Personal. Today also showed Downtown 1340, which had already passed. I asked by text if he had started a class. He replied that he had a personal schedule to keep. I said schedules are good for people who need them. He said routines help Lila. I said I was not Lila. I put the phone away before I had to see his last 3 dots. Ms. Varga came in for a cleaning. She asked about Lila's art. I said Lila loved animals. Ms. Varga said children watch everything. She did not say more. I wondered what she had seen. I decided she had seen nothing. The afternoon moved slow. I felt a restlessness like a fan running in an empty room. I tried to name it. I called it Hunger for Light. I opened Theo's gym page and watched a silent clip of him wiping a counter. It was boring. I told myself boredom is what you make it. I pictured the rooftop bar and the view. I pictured myself, in the glow from the string lights, saying something sharp and funny about how adults play with memory. In my head, a crowd clapped. I liked that version of the night. Adrian texted that he could pick up Lila today if my shift ran late. I said yes without thinking because it gave me space. He replied with a thumbs up and nothing else. I called the short reply cold so I could feel brave. I told myself I needed to fix his mood by showing him how easy I could be in public. Before closing, Kendra leaned over the counter and asked if we were still meeting on a rooftop. I said yes, and told her I might pass by the gym lobby first. She said to film a cute clip with the blender noise because it hides awkward pauses. I laughed and said I did not have awkward pauses. She raised a brow and said everyone does. I felt my face heat and called it excitement. I locked the cash box and wiped the desk. I placed pens in a straight line like soldiers. The clinic lights made small halos on the polished floor. I stepped into the hallway to put paper in the printer tray. It made the same clatter and spit another blank page. The room felt like a stage with no curtain. I heard my own breath in it. The gym lobby smelled like citrus cleaner and faint metal. Music thumped from inside, and the smoothie counter buzzed. I walked in with my chin high. Theo stood near the blender with a towel over his shoulder. He asked how work was. I said the clinic was fine, and that I needed a drink with color. He laughed and told the clerk to make something bright. I leaned on the counter like a person who belongs in stories. A woman by the door held her phone up at an angle. I told myself she was filming the menu, not us. Theo asked if I still told the old sofa story. I said a good story never dies. He smirked like a mirror. I felt taller. Kendra messaged that the rooftop crowd was forming early. I sent a heart and said I would be there soon. A man in a tank top asked Theo if I was the famous ex. Theo said we were old friends. I told myself friend is a flexible word. I stood under the good light and pretended the camera was my ally. When our smoothies came, I made sure my wrist looked slim around the cup. I believed this is how you rewrite a marriage, one clean angle at a time. We took the tram across town. I gazed at my reflection in the window and saw a woman who could not be trapped. I told myself my marriage needed this version of me. The rooftop bar spread like a deck under a low winter sky. Lanterns glowed, and the city looked closer than usual. Kendra waved and said the crowd was perfect. I said tonight would be simple and fun. People clustered around the rail and talked with their hands. I liked the rush of voices. Someone I barely knew asked how Adrian handled my honesty. I said he understood that play is not threat. I delivered the line like a gift. A mutual friend brought Adrian up the stair. He wore a plain shirt that fit well and a careful face. He greeted me and kept a respectful space. I said he should grab a drink because everyone was kind here. He said we could talk tomorrow. I decided the scene needed proof. I told the group I had told him the old sofa story to keep things young. Laughter rose. A woman clapped. My chest swelled with heat that felt like victory. Then the chant started. People called for a toast and raised glasses. I lifted mine and told them adults can talk about the past without panic. I said I might miss the last train if the night ran long, but friends have couches and all that. The roof shifted into a single loud smile. Phones came up like flowers made of light. I saw a small red recording dot on one case. I pretended it was flattering. I let the flare catch my profile. Adrian did not take the bait. He set his glass down and looked out at the skyline. His smartwatch lit and showed a small line. Downtown 1605. He lifted his wrist and dismissed it in one smooth move. A moment later, he stepped to the stairwell, placed headphones in his ears, and answered a silent private call. He said a few words in a low tone and listened. He looked like a person standing on firm ground. I told myself he was getting coached because he could not keep up with me. Kendra leaned into me and said, "The internet loves a villain." I asked who the villain was. She smiled like the answer was obvious. Theo asked where I keep my sense of humor. I said it lives in light. I faced the nearest camera and held an easy half smile. Someone at the bar said the couch joke was iconic. I said iconic things are simple. All of it felt like a stage I owned. We drifted to the edge for a group photo. I leaned closer to Theo, just enough to draw a clean line in the frame. The flash popped and left a white ghost in my eyes. I held still, then tilted my head and laughed gently, the way I had practiced. Adrian returned from the stairwell and stood a few feet away. He did not interrupt. He said we would talk tomorrow and that tonight he would not argue. I said he was making everything heavy again. He said he would not be drawn. His voice was calm and did not carry. I hated how small the calm made me feel, so I called it cold in my mind. After last call, we poured down the stair. Outside, the river air felt damp and sweet. Theo asked if an afterspot sounded good. I said the station might close soon, and a couch solves many things. He smirked and said we would see. I texted Adrian that I was safe with friends and he should relax. He replied that he understood and that we would talk in the morning. The words made a clean, flat surface in my head. I tried to scratch them, but they did not change. A younger colleague trailed us with her phone up. I caught a glimpse of my face on the screen. It looked brave and smooth. I thought about captions. I wrote one in my mind about truth and play. I believed it would land like a soft punch people would admire. Across the walkway, Ms. Varga's teen son paused with two friends and stared. I laughed louder to fill the empty space that stare made. Theo said he needed to swing by the gym to lock up. I told him I would think about the train while he did that. I sat on a bench under a short tree and took a long breath. I sent him a message that maybe I would miss the last train on purpose. He sent a smirk and nothing else. The smirk left me both fed and hungry. I told myself hunger is how you know you are alive. The family restaurant had paper lanterns and loud silverware. We came for a cousin's birthday. The long table made our voices bounce. I sat between Leela and Mateo. Adrian took a chair at the edge, close to the aisle. where he could wave the server over and keep the peace. Ruth arrived in a neat coat and hugged Lila first. I told myself this would be normal, and last night would shrink like steam. Starters came. I kept a bright face and talked about school newsletters and new floss flavors from the clinic. Lila drew a house on her paper placemat. She drew 2 beds in different rooms. She asked me if adults tell stories about old boyfriends at bedtime. The fork stopped. I felt the air press on my skin. I said she must have heard a silly internet joke and that people say wild things for likes. No one laughed. Adrian asked the server for more water in a calm tone. He did not look at me. The quiet felt like a mirror I wanted to break. Ruth asked if we could talk by the cake. We stepped aside. She asked if I understood that some jokes bruise even when no one sees a mark. I said she liked old rules. She said respect is not old. I said I was honest. She asked honest to whom. I told myself she wanted to shame me. I lifted my chin and said I was not ashamed. She looked at me the way librarians look at a page that will tear if turned too fast. When the bill came, Adrian spoke softly to the server. He asked for separate checks. I called that petty in my mind. He said later that it helped him track birthdays and gifts. He kept his voice level. He did not hint at blame. The more careful he was, the more I wanted to throw something loud onto the table. I told myself he was performing calm to make me feel like the storm. I promised I would not be the storm. Then I felt rain gather in my chest anyway. We took Lila to the park after cake. The swings creaked. Lila pumped her legs and asked if Mommy sleeps at friends' houses when trains stop. I said trains do not stop, and Mommy does not sleep anywhere without her family. The words felt rubbery in my mouth. Lila said Daddy looked tired. I said Daddy likes order. She nodded like a small judge who knows a rule I have not read. Ruth sat on the bench and watched me. She said in a low voice that public laughs become records. I said everyone understood context. She asked if I understood it. I said I was in control. She said control is quiet, not loud. I stared at the slide and told myself she liked calm because it made her feel wise. I told myself wisdom is for people who cannot hold heat. On the way home, we stopped at the pharmacy for vitamins. The line was slow under bright, humming lights. A display of dental floss smiled at me like a dare. Ms. Varga entered with a basket and looked at me for a long moment. She said Leela's drawing on the window at home was sweet. I said Leela loves houses. Ms. Varga said children draw what they see. She moved on without a fight. I felt oddly shaken by the lack of drama, as if a door had closed without a sound. At home, the kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner. On the counter sat a folder labeled Household tucked into a canvas tote. I said Adrian had become domesticated. A phone alarm near his keys buzzed and flashed paper drop. He dismissed it with a swipe and did not meet my eyes. I laughed and asked if we were a mailroom now. He said routines save time. I said routines kill spark. He said spark that burns beds is not romance. He went quiet after that, but it was a strong quiet. In the office, I heard a soft machine noise. It was the hum of a shredder, brief and low. It stopped, then started again. The sound made the hairs on my arms rise. I told myself he was cleaning old statements like he said. I told myself, paper is only paper. His laptop screen glowed with a small cloud sync pop-up that read, File uploaded successfully before the window dimmed. I stood in the doorway, and he minimized everything when he noticed me. I asked what he was doing. He said he was getting things in order. I said the phrase sounded cold. He said cold is not the same as clear. In the fridge, I found a printed schedule for Lila held by a cat magnet. It had pick-up and drop-off hours for the week, with calm blocks of time and notes for homework. I called it controlling in my head. He said later that it helps Lila sleep. I said a child needs play. He said a child also needs parents who do not turn her into a shield. The line hit me like a small stone. I named the sting unfair and set it aside. I messaged Theo and asked if he wanted to meet again soon. He replied that low-key was best for now and that he did not want tags. My skin prickled. I told myself low-key is elegant. Kendra said the opposite. She told me to post something bold and ride the wave. I drafted a story that hinted at honesty in bed. I deleted it. I stood by the balcony door and pressed my forehead to the glass. Down on the street, a car idled facing outward, as if ready to leave fast. It was Adrian's. I told myself he was just being efficient. Before bed, Adrian placed 2 mugs on opposite counters again. The space between them looked like a small river. I said he was dramatic. He said he was done with scenes. He tucked Lila in with a soft voice, and the house went still. The stillness was loud. I lay in the guest room because I claimed I needed space to think. The sheets felt overly clean. The room smelled like new paint. I heard the shredder hum one last time and stop. I thought about my rooftop smile and the red recording dot. I told myself the crowd understood me and that the child's question at the restaurant was an outlier. I told myself the story was still mine if I spoke with enough light. The parking garage under the clinic felt cold and hollow. My heels clicked in a slow echo. Adrian stood near our car with headphones on. He held his phone low and spoke in a quiet voice. He ended the call when he saw me and wished me a safe day. I said I would be late. He nodded once and opened the door for me. He did not ask where I was going. I called the nod cruel in my head so I could feel brave. At my desk, Kendra sent a link to a new rooftop clip. In the video, I leaned toward Theo while people shouted for a toast. The comments argued about me, not with me. HR sent a polite message asking me to remove the clinic tag from an older post. Mr. Delaney asked for a quick word about optics. I said it was free marketing and that clients love a friendly face. He said brand and private life must stay separate. I smiled and said I understood. Inside, I felt a small bruise forming where pride sits. I went home early to change. The guest room looked staged, like a show house. A tote sat on the chair, with 3 binders stacked inside. Home, auto, bank. A clipboard on the desk showed one word at the top. Statement. I tapped the page and told myself the neatness was overkill. In the drawer, I saw a single USB stick taped under a folder labeled Taxes, with today's date on a small label. The drawer clicked locked when I pushed it, and the sound made my chest tighten. I called it paranoia and moved on. Adrian laid 2 mugs on opposite counters again, as if the kitchen had borders now. He placed a simple schedule for Lila on the fridge and added a note about homework. I told him he liked control. He said routines help children sleep. I said love needs spontaneity. He said chaos hurts trust. I asked if he still loved me. He said he loved Lila and would keep her safe. I asked what that meant. He said it meant order and quiet. The words felt like doors closing. My phone buzzed with a message from Theo. He said low-key was best and asked me not to tag him again. I felt the sting and changed its name to Independence. Kendra told me to post something bold and drown the critics. I opened my camera and closed it. I felt tired of my own pose, and then I hated the feeling, so I called it temporary. Around 5, Adrian's phone lit with a reminder, downtown 1510. He had already dismissed it. A new message thread on his screen titled Follow-up popped and then disappeared. He placed his keys on the table. I saw a new metal key on the ring, thin and unfamiliar. He pocketed them before I could ask. I said he was becoming secretive. He said he was becoming clear. He looked at the clock and checked Lila's backpack. He asked if I had signed the school form. I said I would sign it later. He said he had already signed it and put it in the folder. I stepped onto the balcony with my phone. The street below looked like a slow river of lights. Inside the office, the printer made a clatter and then spit a single blank page. The sound made me think of white flags and empty answers. Adrian came to the doorway and said he would not argue. He said he would handle this properly. He did not look angry. He looked finished. I laughed and called him dramatic. He said we would follow a plan. The word plan annoyed me more than any insult could have. That night, I pretended to sleep in the guest room. The air felt too clean. The car in the driveway faced the street like it was ready. I told myself he was just efficient. I scrolled old photos and liked the ones where my smile was easy. I wrote a caption about freedom and truth and then deleted it. I set an early alarm and promised a bright dress tomorrow. I would take a lunch selfie near the tall art in the office tower lobby. I would own the story again. The office tower lobby had glass walls and a big metal sculpture. The floor shone like water. I arrived at noon with the bright dress and my best camera angle in mind. The air hummed with elevators and soft conversations. I held my phone up near the sculpture and tried a test smile. The elevator bell rang. A man with a clipboard crossed the floor and said my full name in a clear voice. I said yes, that was me. He asked me to confirm my identity, then handed me a sealed envelope. I opened it with a practiced calm and read the first lines. The words were plain and heavy. It was a divorce petition with temporary financial and possession orders. A notice inside said an interim custody schedule filing had been made. Pick-up and drop-off times were listed for the week. An interim line granted exclusive use of the townhouse pending hearing. I felt my breath go tight. The room did not get larger or smaller. It just became true. I looked at the paper again to make it stop. It did not stop. Adrian stood 20 feet away, not hiding and not performing. A neutral witness stood beside him with a small notebook. Adrian's face was steady. He said we would follow the schedule exactly. I said this was cruel and public. He said this was lawful and necessary. He did not raise his voice. He did not step toward me. He did not look away. He spoke as if reading a recipe that feeds a child. Kendra pressed my shoulder and whispered that we could post a statement. I pulled my arm free and stared at the security camera near the ceiling. A tiny red light blinked. I felt the outline of last night's rooftop clip wrap itself around me like plastic. I tried to think of the perfect sentence that would crack it. No sentence came. The process server asked me to sign an acknowledgement of receipt. My hand moved like it belonged to someone else. I wrote my name in neat letters. The pen cap clicked. The server thanked me. The witness noted the time. Adrian said he would be at the listed pickup point this afternoon, and that communication could be by message only about Leela and the house. I asked if we could talk alone and fix this. He said there would be no more scenes. The words felt like a door, and the door closed. Ruth entered from the plaza with calm steps. She greeted the process server and asked if the child needed to be moved now or later. She said she would follow the schedule. She looked at me and said nothing else. Matteo stood near a planter, with his hands in his jacket and a stunned face. He did not take sides. He looked like a person watching a window close. I held the papers in both hands. They were not dramatic. They were simple. I wanted to turn and ask the lobby for applause, for any sign that a joke could still cure a thing like this. A group of workers passed, laughing about lunch. No one knew me. The security camera blinked again. My phone screen showed my test selfie from 2 minutes earlier. The smile looked lost. Adrian thanked the process server, nodded to Ruth, and turned toward the revolving doors. He did not rush. He did not slow down. He stepped out into the daylight, and the door panel spun, and his shape broke into slices, then into nothing. The process server said the papers had been served, and that the orders were in effect now. The words landed like a stamp. Kendra slipped her phone into her bag and stared at the floor. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.